Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome on back to my room. We have another trailer to get into, and today we are going to be looking at the warrior, the thief, and the engineer for Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds and their spear skills. We have a trailer, so let's watch the trailer and then we'll get into the blog post and dissect more detail out of the skills. All right, let's see what this trailer is about. Boop. Now, I gotta say, these three classes, there's no light armor. I was kind of hoping for a light armor. Okay. Ooh, I like the animations. Oh, what's that? Oh, I love that piercing attack. That, like, multiple jabs. There's some nice new animations for the thief. Engineer, not my main. Looking staticky. They're going with that lightning motif. Ooh. Oh, that's a cool spear skin. Gotta admit, I liked what I saw. Okay. Warrior. Ranged. I like that they have a ranged option. Ooh, calling down some arena spears. Ooh. Yeah, that jump attack is pretty cool. Alright, much like the other trailers, this one was pretty great as well. One thing that I didn't mention in the video about the last trailer, but also applies to this trailer, is I just wish that the actual combat abilities, like the impact in the audio mixing, it's quite low, so you don't really get that visceral impact of the attacks like other trailers used to. I wish that this one had better audio mixing, just like versus the in-game sound effects versus the music that they're playing. That was my only criticism of the last trailer and this one. But what we saw here, the thief, I like the new animations. Those looked really cool. And then it summoned like this shadow clone from them. That was awesome. And then we see the engineer. I gotta admit, I'm actually very pleased with what I'm seeing from the engineer. I'm not someone who plays a lot of NG. However, it just looks really interesting. There's like this debuff mechanic on the enemy. There's like this arcing lightning. And then they have this swirling spear, which forms into a bigger one that you can launch. That looks really interesting and intricate. So maybe play it with Scrapper for engineer. And then we have warrior. Warrior seems a bit more of the straightforward out of the two other classes that was shown. But we have ranged attacks and we have things that you can call down to strike your target. And then they do this like big leap in the air and they throw something that kind of has an impactful explosion. Probably the F1 skill. Yeah, this trailer was really solid as well. We got 2 medium armors, and then we got a heavy armor. So that means next week it's going to be Revenant, Mesmer, and Necromancer. Some more magical classes. These feel more physical based. So maybe that's what they were going for in terms of the trailer sequencing. But yeah, I'm actually really impressed with Thief. Oh, that's probably their stealth attack, is like the very fast-paced shadow jabs. I like it. All right, let's head over to the blog post and talk a bit more about detailed skill effects. We're going to start with the warrior, and the blog post reads, Warrior Spears, damage from a distance. The warrior spear auto attack is Mighty Throw, which hurls the spear at a single enemy, shattering on impact and sending spear fragments into other enemies around the target. Proximity to the target matters, as the closer the target is to the warrior, the more fragments are created. Maiming Spear is a ranged attack. The warrior launches the spear into the air, dealing initial damage and crippling foes in the area of effect. This cripple is helpful to prevent enemies from escaping the aftershock that follows, which is larger the closer the target area is to the warrior. If breathing room is required, Spear Swipe propels the warrior backwards in an evasive maneuver before sending a gust of wind forward to knock enemies back. Finally, the Spear Burst skill, Harrier's Toss, allows the warrior to leap up into the air, evading attacks while hurling the spear down with explosive force, and dealing more damage the more adrenaline is spent on the burst attack. So the warrior seems very straightforward. It's a weapon kit that allows you to play at ranged, which the warrior has kind of been missing, but it seems to also gain benefit from being closer to targets as well, not necessarily increasing the overall damage, but increasing the area of effect of certain abilities. So if enemies are closer, you're going to be able to cleave more, which I think I like. I would feel that this would be a little disappointing if it was a ranged kit, but you just did straight up more damage from being in melee range. Let's move on to the Thief. Now, the Thief is a little bit more complicated. They have this unique combo system with their second and third ability, which is very unique. So, the second and third spear skills share some characteristics. Each has 3 different states, but will always be in the same state as the other. By default, they will both be lead attacks. Striking an enemy with either lead attack will flip both slots into the next follow-up attack. In a similar fashion, striking an enemy with either follow-up attack will flip both slots into the final finisher attack. Yes, both are combo finishers. And also to note that this weapon is a melee power and condition hybrid, and warrior was a long-ranged power weapon. For Thief, after using one of the finishers, both skill slots will flip back to their lead attacks, ready to start a chain over again. Although the 4th and 5th skills and the stealth attack all gain additional bonuses when following a finisher skill, so you may want to weave in one of those using before using another lead attack. One last note on the skill chains: using other skills during the chain sequence will not reset the chain, but failing to strike an enemy with any of the follow-up attacks will. Now that we have a quick overview of the mechanic, which is a little bit more complex, kind of have an auto attack chain for your second and third. I shouldn't say auto attack chain, but just like combo chain. So now that we've overviewed some of the mechanics, let's take a look at the full chain for the second ability. You'll be able to mix and match skill slots throughout the chain. For example, you could do 3-2-3. It totally works, but they won't be covering those skills today. So this is the second skill chain. We have Mantis Sting, which is the lead attack. It's a quick melee strike that inflicts bleeding and cripple. This will flip into Entangling Asp, which poisons enemies and will also immobilize enemies that are affected by any movement impairing conditions, such as cripple. And then finally, you'll have Falling Spider. The skill will inflict bleeding, poison, and vulnerability, inflicting additional stacks against enemies that are either immobilized or under the effects of crowd control. Each skill's bonus trigger conditions are fulfilled by the previous skill in the chain, but these conditions are all things that the Thief has broader access to, so there are opportunities to get these bonuses even when chaining skills together from different skill slots, such as the third ability. I like that. I think Thief is kind of going to be my surprise hit, which is nice because if you remember in previous expansion, I did not really gel with the Thief axes. They weren't my cup of tea, but reading this from a blog post, it seems cool. It seems very well thought out. I'm liking it. I'm loving it even. Let's move on to Engineer. Engineer Spear is shocking. So Engineer is a melee spear, probably power based. But it says this Engineer Spear combat style is melee oriented with hybrid damage, encouraging you to pick a target and run directly into battle while utilizing a variety of control and damage skills. So control CC and also power damage. Your primary skill for this weapon is called Conduit Surge. This skill dashes to your targeted foe and applies the focused effect to them, charging them for future attacks. So that was the arc lightning that we saw. Every other weapon skill attack will apply a bonus effect to or work to maintain the focused effect on your foe. One thing to note about Conduit Surge is that if a foe is defeated while under the focused effect, this skill will refresh and allow you to pursue your next target. So very similar to like Thief Deadeye, where you can target a foe and if they die, it just allows you to pick another target seamlessly. The lightning rod skill is constantly available while wielding a spear. The engineer will create a segmented lightning rod that spins around them, dealing bonus damage to focused targets and gaining an amplifying effect, with a bonus for hitting a focused target. For the next skill on the same slot is electric artillery. When the lightning rod is completed and hovering over your shoulder, you can choose to launch your charged rod at an enemy, immobilizing them and applying damaging conditions based on lightning rod's success. So this is what we saw in the trailer with like that spinning field, and then that unique spear was ready to be launched. The weapon's 5th skill and Battle Ender is a skill currently called Devastation, which allows you to leap to a targeted area and deliver a massive EMP-style attack, inflicting focused foes, plural, so I'm guessing multiple, you could have multiple, with a continuously damaging effect. I like that. Damage over time? Power damage over time? We look forward to watching you tear around the battlefield, mixing both spears and kits together to cause fear and chaos. Engineer, also kind of a stealth hit, not gonna lie, kind of impressed. I think coming from Secrets of the Obscure, Thief Axes and Engineer Shortbow were my least favorites, kind of, so this will be a nice redemption. From what we saw in the trailer and from what was shown in the blog post, I'm also really enjoying Engineer. I think it's cool to have a focused mechanic on the Engineer where you have to essentially prioritize certain targets, or either prioritize one target or work to mark multiple targets and also maintain those upkeeps and upkeep that conduit surge targeting effect. So it'll be an interesting playstyle choice for players if you want to go after multiple enemies or if you just want to kind of like hone in. Overall, closing thoughts. I thought the warrior, the thief, and the engineer were actually really well presented. The warrior is maybe more straightforward out of the bunch, but hey, warrior staff was more straightforward last expansion, and I loved warrior staff. So if the history is doomed to repeat itself, let it be doomed, because I actually really enjoy warrior at the moment. So I'm excited to see how it feels with the spear. Thief, not gonna lie, kind of my favorite that's been shown off out of this bunch. And I also really loved that the trailer showed off some new animations. And then also Engineer, shockingly, and that's not a pun, that was very much unintended, but hey, it is shockingly unexpected that I'm both visually interested and mechanically interested in something that Engineer is doing. So I might have to dust off my scrapper and play around with some electric spear stuff. But that is the wrap up for this week's spear showcase for the warrior, thief, and engineer. Comment down below what you have to say when it comes to these 3 professions. Are you liking what you're seeing? If you'd like to pre-order Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, I have links down below in the description. And if you would like to support the channel over on Patreon and get early access to videos and some exclusive videos, head on over there. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye everyone! Mwah.